Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you're doing well. One of the first things people noticed right away is that they introduced a new option in the simulation content, specifically for the stuff under the AIC plan. If you've been playing the game, you know that those sims can be a bit of a grind, especially if you've already unlocked everything in them. Previously, you had to actually run through the simulation to claim those rewards, even if you'd already mastered the content. But with this update, once you finished and unlocked everything, there's a brand new button, Complete Sim, that lets you instantly finish it and grab all the first clear and bonus rewards without having to run the stage again. Now, yes, that does mean you don't have to redo all the work and replay the same content, and the dev devs also hinted that in future versions they'll give out special medals for people who actually finish the Sims the old school way. But that's for later, not here right now. That alone was a pretty nice quality of life improvement because, let's be honest, some of those Sims are no joke, and if you're aiming just for a fast clear and your rewards, being able to tick that off without having to play every time is a time saver. So that change was definitely welcomed by a lot of the community. Now, another big set of changes in this update were enemy balance adjustments. And that's something that people were pretty vocal about. The developers went in and reduced the health points and defenses on a wide range of enemies, especially those lower level trash mobs that you run into in the earlier exploration areas, stuff around level 10 to level 50. These enemies were just tankier and took longer than most folks expected, so the devs tuned that down to make the pacing feel a bit smoother as you work through the regions. And speaking of combat balance, there was also a specific change to one of the bosses that a lot of people had mixed feelings about. Marble Agalorai, that fight got its damage reduced for its second phase when it's in that awake state. A lot of players were finding that mechanic pretty punishing, especially if you weren't well prepared. So bringing that damage down means that players can approach that encounter with a little less fear of getting one shot or otherwise wiped out when they're still figuring out their team setup. Some folks love that change, some would have preferred a harder challenge, but it's definitely easier now in that sense. Outside of combat changes, there were a bunch of optimizations and quality of life improvements tucked into this patch as well. The prompt information on the name input screen for controllers was cleaned up so that if you're playing on PC with a gamepad, it's a smoother experience right from the start. Some sound effects and voiceover clips were tuned up to perform more consistently, and they also optimized a bunch of NPC animations and interaction effects, so the world feels a little bit more polished overall. Then there's the huge list of bug fixes. Honestly, this is one of those times where you really appreciate the devs listening to reports and going through the big list of issues that can affect gameplay flow. One of the early fixes was addressing a problem with the exchange crates of surprise in the Protocol Pass event. Previously, if you opened several of the M-tier crates in a row, you'd only get one reward instead of all of them, and that was understandably frustrating. So the patch fixed that, and anyone who was affected by that issue was promised compensation with the matching items through in-game mail, so that you get back what you were owed. They also tackled a number of mission progression bugs that were potentially blocking players from moving forward. There were issues in both main missions and side exploration missions, like in Valley Reboot, Secure Sanctuary, Cradle of the Ages, and parts of the Wuling missions, where the game could just stop progressing because of some glitch in mission logic or guidance systems. Those have now been fixed so that mission flows correctly and you won't get stuck in those spots anymore. Exploration mission bugs got some attention too. There were moments in missions like Morale Booster and Silent Grove the Beginning where you couldn't proceed because some key objective wouldn't register correctly or some item wouldn't show up. Those sorts of frustrating bugs are now resolved so that the storyline and exploration content works as intended without those hiccups. Visual and skill description issues were also part of the fix list. For example, some special effects from operators like Levitain could display abnormally after using an ultimate, and camera behavior during certain moments with Yvonne could act weird as well. Both of those got smoothed out so the animations and visuals behave the way they should. Even some text fields that were showing incorrect skill descriptions on certain weapons got corrected. The effects themselves didn't change, just the text so that what you read actually matches what happens in combat. And there were some fixes to UI screens, like the yield overview in simulation, and some weird behavior where smoke effects wouldn't disappear in certain maps. Those little things add up over time if you run into them enough, so it's nice to see them addressed. Now, I want to talk about compensation, because that's important for a lot of players who were online during this patch. Since this was a quick maintenance that introduced a bunch of fixes and improvements, the developers sent out compensation through the in-game mail system. If you created your account and character before the update maintenance began, then you're eligible to receive a package that includes a total of 700 oro barrel, 6 emergency sanity boosters, and 20 sanity usage permits to help make up for any inconvenience. You can only claim that after you've unlocked the mail feature in the game, and the mail will stay in your inbox for 30 days, so make sure you grab it before it expires.